A racist Karen accuses me, a black man, of stealing my own Lamborghini at a car wash. The situation escalates quickly, and I end up being confronted by police officers with guns. Here's what happened. So I'm a black man who grew up in a rough neighborhood. I always knew that the key to getting ahead was hard work and dedication. I worked my way through college, got a degree in real estate, and now at the age of 38, I'm a fairly successful property developer. One of my biggest passions in life has always been cars, particularly Lamborghinis. I remember as a child seeing pictures of the iconic Countach and dreaming of one day owning one. The company has such a rich history, starting out making tractors and then transitioning to producing some of the most beautiful and powerful cars on the planet. Lamborghinis are more than just cars to me. They're a symbol of success and hard work. Anyways, recently a new car wash had just opened up near my office. I knew I had to check it out. I pulled up in my 2012 Lamborghini Gallardo, handed over the keys to the attendant, and went to grab some lunch. When I returned to the car wash, I was met by a middle-aged white woman who seemed to be in charge. Let's just call her Karen. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" she asked, looking at me like I was an alien from another planet. "Yeah, I'm here to pick up my car," I replied, holding out my hand for the keys. "I'm sorry, but I can't give you the keys until you can prove that this car is yours," Karen said, folding her arms across her chest. "What are you talking about? Of course it's mine. Why would I be here if it wasn't?" I demanded, feeling my anger rising. "I'm sorry, but I've had a lot of people try to steal cars from this lot. I need to see some ID or something to prove that you're the owner," Karen said, her voice dripping with condescension. I pulled out my business card from my wallet and handed it to her. "Look, I'm a property developer. This is my car. I can assure you that I'm the owner," I said, trying to keep my cool. Karen examined the card and handed it back to me. "I'm sorry, sir, but I still can't just give you the keys. I need to be absolutely certain that this car belongs to you," Karen said, pulling out her phone. "What? Are you serious?" I yelled, feeling my blood pressure spike. "I've shown you my business card and you still don't believe me? This is ridiculous." Karen just shrugged and continued dialing her phone. I tried to grab the keys out of her hand, but she held them out of reach. "Give me the keys, Karen. This is my car, and I'm not going to stand here and let you accuse me of stealing it," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Get away from me, you thug. I know what you people are like, always trying to steal things that don't belong to you." Karen spat, her face turning red with anger. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Here I was, a black man, being accused of stealing my own car by some racist car wash worker. Like, what the fuck? I stood there fuming as Karen disappeared inside the building, where she eventually called the police. I paced back and forth, trying to figure out what to do next, not knowing she called the police. I entered the building looking for where she went. I started talking to the receptionist at the counter and explained to her this woman won't give me my car keys. The receptionist was hella confused and was about to check up on Karen, and that's when I heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Within minutes, 2 police cruisers pulled up and 2 officers stepped out, their hands on their guns. "Put your hands up and get on the ground now!" one of them shouted, his eyes locked on me. "What the hell is going on? I haven't done anything wrong," I protested, putting my hands up in the air. The officers didn't seem to be listening to me. They approached slowly with their hands on their guns. Karen reappears after hiding in the back. "He's the one who tried to steal my customer's car," she yelled, pointing at me. "What the fuck? That's not true. This is my car and I have proof. Don't fucking kill me," I screamed. "Let's see some ID," one of the officers said, still pointing his gun at me. I handed over my driver's license and my business card, and the officers examined them closely. They ran the plates of my car and realized that I was in fact the owner. After a few tense moments, the officers calmed down and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, it's clear that this man is the owner of the car. We're going to have to ask you to hand over the keys," one of the officers said, turning to Karen. Karen hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly handed over the keys. "I'm sorry for any inconvenience, sir," the officer said, turning to me. I could see the embarrassment in his eyes as he handed me back my keys. It was clear that he knew he had made a mistake, but that didn't change the fact that I had just been accused of stealing my own car. Karen's outburst had caused a scene, and it took several minutes for the officers to sort out what was really going on. As they questioned both me and Karen, I couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration and anger. Why did I, a law-abiding citizen, have to go through this just because of the color of my skin? Eventually, the officers were able to determine that Karen had filed a false report. They placed her under arrest and led her away in handcuffs. But even as she was being taken away, Karen continued to hurl insults and accusations at me, her face twisted in rage. As I got into my car and drove away from the car wash, I couldn't help but think about what had just happened. It was a sobering reminder that, even in this day and age, racism still exists. People like Karen will stop at nothing to try and tear us down, and it's up to us to stand up to them. When I got home, I called my lawyer and told him everything that had happened. He advised me that I had grounds to press charges against Karen for filing a false report, and for the emotional distress she had caused me. After thinking it over for a few days, I decided to go ahead with the charges. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew that I had to take a stand. I couldn't just let that bitch get away with her racist, bigoted mind risking my life. And in the end, justice was served. Karen was fined a chunk of money, not that much for me, but seemed to put a dent in her pockets, and was ordered to undergo sensitivity training. It wasn't exactly the justice I had hoped for, but it was something. Looking back on that day, I'm reminded of how far we as a society still have to go. I honestly don't see any improvements being made. Humans are always going to be like this, to be honest. Oh yeah, and as for my Lamborghini, well, it's still my pride and joy, and I make sure to give it a good wash every chance I get. Not at that shitty car wash, though. Oh my God, can you believe the nerve of that Karen? Accusing OP of stealing his own Lamborghini just because he's black. I mean, how crazy is that? It's not like he just rolled up in a beat-up old car and claimed it was a Lambo. This was a 2012 Gallardo, for crying out loud. This is the kind of car that screams, "I'm successful and I worked hard to get here." And yet, Karen still wouldn't believe him. And then, when the police showed up, she tried to lie and say that OP was trying to steal someone else's car. What kind of crazy person does that? Thank God the police were able to figure out what was really going on, and that OP had the proof to show that the car was his. It's so frustrating to see this kind of thing still happening in today's society. But you know what? Good for OP for standing up for himself and pressing charges against Karen. People like her need to learn that they can't just go around accusing people of things without any evidence. And it's not just about the false report, it's about the emotional distress she caused him. So what do you think about this whole situation? Have you ever experienced something like this before? Let me know in the comments. A Karen at the store accuses me of stealing her cart, then rams it into me, causing serious injuries, all while I was just trying to purchase some early Christmas gifts for my mother. Here's what happened when security and the police got involved. Before the story begins, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you can listen to more stories. I was online shopping this morning when I saw these gorgeous outdoor Christmas lights at really great prices at a local store. My mother loves Christmas, but she's never had the money or time to put any lights up, but she longed to have some. I decided that as an early Christmas present, that I would get her some that she could be proud of. I purchased some great deals online, like some light-up reindeer, her favorite, some colorful string lights with the colors red, green, white, blue, and purple, a snowflake-shaped light, and some light-up candy canes for her candy cane lane. I ordered them, paid with my credit card, and was actually able to pick them up in store same day, all for less than $100 under dollars. A total steal. When I get there, I see there's a long line at customer services, so I decided to browse for a bit. I ended up getting a super great deal on a pair of dripping icicle lights, the buy one get one free deal. I then added a strand of light-up garland, so she could decorate inside with more than just the tree. I know it's a lot, but I made good money from doing remote lab work at my university, and since I had more than enough saved up for tuition, decided to spoil my family after such a rotten year. So I go, pay, and sure enough the line at customer service is a lot shorter. I get in line, wait maybe 20 minutes, and when I'm at the counter, I presented my email proving proof of purchase, but it takes a bit for her to scan the QR code as the device is apparently not reading it. I got no problem with that because, hey, things happen when suddenly my own cart is slammed into my side. See, what I did was put myself between my cart and the exit. I've read one too many horror stories of people just running off with others' purchases that I wanted to play it safe. And it kind of worked, except for the fact that I'm now in a lot of pain because my own cart was rammed right into my hip bone and knee, knocking me over to the floor and nearly making me whack my head. And the crazy lady who did that then tried to push my own cart over me, all while screaming, "I kid you not, you stupid little thief!" This lady was literally trying to sell that I stole her cart. Needless to say, I'm super pissed and super in pain, security is called. I'm screaming at the lady to stop lying and give me back my cart, and then I ended up detained. Why? Sadly, she was black and I was Caucasian, in a time of all this racism craziness. Now, before you start on that whole "you're racist" nonsense, I'm not. I couldn't care less if that lady was an alien or had purple skin or was the Queen of England herself. I treat others by how they treat me. And she was stealing my gifts for my mother and claiming I was the thief. Angry, I then twisted out of the security guy's hold, ripped the receipt out of my pocket and shoved it in his face. "I have the receipt, you idiot!" He's startled, steps back and stares at the receipt, and I snap at him that he needs to get a pair of glasses, because skin color or not, I have the receipt. That woman doesn't. Now call me a damn ambulance because I can't take the bus home from how in pain my body was from being rammed by my own cart. An older security guard, a manager, and the head honcho supervisor come over, and the older guard started berating the younger guy for jumping to conclusions. The manager checks my receipt and sure enough, it's all mine. And the crazy lady has no receipt. Of course, then the lady starts wailing about how I must have stolen her receipt, only to have it pointed out that I had used my points card for that store, which was on the receipt, and they could match to my ID. They also had CCTV of me with all my items, buying them, and then her coming along and grabbing them and ramming me with my own cart. I then have to sit there on a bench with all my items. The customer service girl who struggled to get the QR code to scan returned my phone to me. I dropped it on the counter when I was hit, and started placing my items I had bought online into the cart, which had now been returned to me, while Crazy Lady was detained. Police and EMTs arrived not long after. Store actually wasn't that far from a hospital or police station, and after the EMTs loaded me onto the stretcher, my ankle was badly twisted from being knocked over, and I wanted to go to the hospital just to be safe. I give my statement, press charges, before turning to the supervisor as he comes over. He's very apologetic and asks if I want anything from the store for free as compensation for this disaster. I told him that all I wanted was for A, the idiot security guard to either be rigorously retrained in thinking for once, or be fired. B, that I wanted them to hold on to my purchases until I could come back to pick them up. And C, that crazy lady, who was now screaming, "You'll hear from my son! He's a lawyer!" be permabanned from their entire chain because who knows if she's gotten away with it before or would do it again. They super agreed that it was more than fair. The security guy who detained me improperly looked horrified, and apparently Crazy Lady heard that and went deathly pale before she fainted right then and there. I'm now sitting in a hospital bed, my ankle in a cast, the bones cracked, my left hip and knee in pain, my right elbow bruised, and having to call my grandparents to pick me up because my family only has 2 cars, and my sister and dad are both at work, hence why I took the bus. I'm so pissed it's not even funny. What happened to me isn't right, no matter the skin color, and I'm going to be pressing charges. Poor OP just wanted to get some Christmas lights for their mom and ends up getting attacked by a Karen who accuses them of stealing her cart. I mean, who does that? And then, on top of everything else, OP gets detained by security just because of their skin color. That's just insane. But it's a good thing that the security footage and OP's receipt proved their innocence. And it's great that the store apologized and offered compensation for what happened. But seriously, that Karen lady should be banned from the store chain. Who knows how many other innocent people she's falsely accused of stealing her cart or other things. A entitled Karen mother calls the cops when I wouldn't give any free steak to her grown-ass 30-year-old son. Yeah. This happened maybe about a year ago before the whole pandemic started. The weather had been nice, and I had just gotten some sirloin steaks. I haven't used my grill since the previous year, so I decided now would be a good time to try it out. For a few days, a group of construction workers had been busy working on a new house. It's built now, and it's pretty nice. Way too expensive for me though. But it had been hot and/or rainy almost the entire duration of the build, and they were working their asses off the whole way through. So I decided to be nice, and after going over to the site, I yelled for them to come get some free food when they went on break. They were incredibly grateful. There were about 5 workers present, and 4 of them showed up for steak while the other passed. I had enough for everyone, including one for me, and we had a nice time chatting and getting to know one another. One was a veteran of the Marines back in the early 80s. He's friends with my grandma now. One was even related to the sheriff of our county. Anyway, amid the conversation we heard an "excuse me" from the other side of the fence. My neighbor is this middle-aged woman with a super freaky son. He was this stoner influencer who loved to go on social media and post about his fetish for pot, and lived off his mother's paycheck every week while living on her couch. He was also in his mid-30s. There she was, on the other side of the fence. Karen comes over and asks, "My son was wondering if he can have some steak too." So I reply, "Sorry, I don't have any left." "But you have enough for all of them." "Yeah, I do. If he wanted some, he should have came earlier." "No, you should have bought enough for everyone." One of the workers barges in and says, "Look, lady, this guy was nice enough to cook steaks." Karen cuts him off. "Don't you have work you should be doing?" We're on lunch, ma'am." She soon left in a huff, but not before shouting that she was calling the police. I was the only one who heard that, I think, so I asked the relative of the sheriff if there was really anything the police would arrest me for. Of course, he said no. In his words, there are no laws against not sharing. I asked if we should tell her that, and he again said no. Again, in his words, it would be the most fun they've had on the job ever since they started building that damn house. Also note, I actually did have an extra steak. I was saving it for later, LMAO. Sure enough, after the construction workers went back to the site, who's to show up but a police officer? No lights, so it's a non-emergency, but he parked right outside Karen's house. Both her and her grown-ass kid walked out and greet the police officer. I walked out on my own lawn, and Karen pointed straight at me. I can't quite remember everything said here, but she was accusing me of discrimination because I left her 30-ish-year-old little boy out of our little steak party. I swear, it was like a kindergarten lunch. The officer obviously shook it off, warned her to not get the police involved in something so ridiculous again, and started to leave, but I said, "Wait, officer, are you hungry?" The officer then replied, "Well, I haven't had lunch yet, why? May I offer you a steak?" Karen then screams, "I knew it! You do have more steak! I demand you give it to my son now!" Officer then steps in, "And I demand you both go back into your house before I arrest you for disturbing the peace and possibly harassment." Karen then mumbles, But you can't do that. He can't do that. Tell him, my son." Her grown-ass kid then says, I just wanted some steak." The mother then says, "Officer, you have to do something about this. This man is performing a hate crime on my son." We both actually laughed. Officer said something along the lines of, "Have a good day," and I let him into my backyard. I had to give him the steak raw, since he had to go back on his patrol, but we had a good laugh. Karen and her kid finally went back into their house, and every time that I see them nowadays, she scowls at me, while the kid just pays no attention. I occasionally see that same officer from time to time, and every time I see him, he asks the same thing. "Did you remember to share today?" Oh my goodness, can you believe this story? I mean, I knew Karen's existed, but this is a whole new level of craziness. So OP here was grilling up some delicious steaks for some construction workers who were taking a break when his neighbor Karen pops up and asks for her 30-year-old son to have some too. When OP politely declined, she threw a fit and threatened to call the police. And then she actually did it. But the best part was when OP offered the police officer a steak, and Karen lost her mind because she thought he was hiding steaks from her precious little boy. And then she had the audacity to accuse OP of a hate crime. Can you even imagine? Just hilarious, to be honest. Anyways, you should click the video on screen where a Karen tries to legally scam OP out of his house so he sends her to prison. Yep, you don't want to miss this.